In today's episode, two teenagers spearfishing in Australia are attacked by a massive great white shark. After killing one of the boys, the shark sets its sight on the other, forcing the boy to use his spear gun in defense against the man-eating shark. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying shark attack on Jay Muscat. Welcome to Final Affliction. While Waichinukup National Park in Western Australia is known to have a particularly magical coastline, the jewel of the area is Shane's Beach. With beautiful white sands and crystal clear waters, the beach attracts many tourists who come to camp and live away from home for a gorgeous holiday. Whether they come to swim, snorkel, sail, or just sunbathe, there is something for everyone to do and enjoy their time off from work. Aside from the people on the beach, there will also be some other visitors that people may need to be aware of, some friendly and some distinctly less so. People flock to see the different large lizard species and the diversity of exotic bird populations. If you're lucky, you might even catch a glimpse of the world's rarest marsupial, Gilbert's potoroo. It's also not uncommon for swimmers here to come across the great white shark, the most dangerous shark in the world. Jay Muscat learned this firsthand in 2014 when he came face to face with the animal and tragically never escaped. 17-year-old Jay Muscat loved to dive and was an active member of the West Australia Undersea Diving Group with dreams of becoming a commercial fisherman. He would regularly go diving with his friends and family, where he would competitively fish with them. On December 29, 2014, just a few days after spending a happy Christmas with his family, he decided to go diving with his friend Matt Pullella near Shane's Beach to practice his spearfishing technique. They arrived on the shoreline at 11:30 a.m., ready to see who would catch the most fish. The skies were pretty cloudy, creating dark waters in front of them, but they were undeterred. They knew how to handle themselves in the water. What they didn't know was that something was lurking in the waters, just waiting for someone to break the surface. Sharks were not uncommon, and the diving club regularly warned their members of the smaller bronze whaler sharks that would attempt to steal divers' catches. However, there were very few reports of someone actually getting attacked. The teenagers were both blissfully unaware that 2 days ago, a great white shark had been sighted, and then, just an hour before their arrival, the same shark had been seen circling the area again. It was searching for something to eat, and the teenagers were just the right size to convince it to initiate an attack. Upon arrival, the boys entered the water pretty quickly and began diving about 40 meters away from shore. They took some time to assess their surroundings and then began their hunt, hoping to settle the argument of who would be the better spear hunter. They were happily swimming around for about 20 minutes when the unthinkable happened. Matt felt something smack into him with intense force, so much so that he believed that he had somehow been hit by a boat. He was instantly disoriented by the sudden hit and immediately surfaced to figure out what had happened. Looking around to understand what happened, he suddenly spotted Jay flailing in the water with a 5-meter great white shark attached to his leg, the most fearsome predator in the ocean. It dwarfed the teenagers with its massive body and sheer strength. They knew they wouldn't have a chance against such a massive beast. Blood began to surround them as it poured from Jay's leg, and he began to kick the animal in the face with his free leg in an attempt to escape. Aside from fighting off the shark, he also needed to make sure he could keep his head above water, or else his efforts would be for nothing and he would drown. The pain was unlike anything he had felt before, and the more he fought, the more he felt himself weaken. He knew from the amount of blood surrounding him that the shark had hit a major artery or vein and that he was bleeding out quickly. He knew he didn't have much time and continued to kick the predator that was determined to kill him. Tragically, he quickly realized that he wouldn't be making it out of the water that day as he stopped fighting and everything went dark around him. Matt was helpless to do anything but watch as his friend slowly lost consciousness while the shark continued to thrash and tear at his leg. The water was now thick with blood, which caused Matt to become confused as to where the shark even was, but he soon found out. As the shark realized that its first prey was dead, it turned its attention to Matt and began to charge at him. Through the red cloudiness of the water, he could see a set of sharp teeth swimming directly at him, and knew he only had about 10 seconds to save himself. He finally remembered that he was holding a spear gun and aimed it at the shark. He knew that he would only have one shot and had to make sure it was a good one. His life depended on it. Remembering the advice that he had received so many times about how to defend against a shark, he aimed straight for the shark's nostril. He watched as the spear sailed through the water and smashed into the animal's mouth instead. It began thrashing in agony as soon as the spear was embedded into its body, giving Matt a short period to escape. He spotted some rocks about 30 meters away and knew that they were his only hope. He began to swim for his life. He had never swum so fast before, knowing that if he stopped for even a second, then it was unlikely that he would ever escape the waters again. He allowed himself one glance to see how far away the shark was, but luckily it was still thrashing around in pain and blood was pouring from its mouth. He prayed that the animal was dying, not only to save himself, but also as a punishment for killing his friend. He immediately continued his escape, not wanting to waste any more time in the water. After an agonizing swim, Matt made it to the rocks and pulled himself out of the water. He could see where his friend had died and the blood that was staining the water. His friend's body was floating on the surface now, only being moved by the waves and the thrashing of the shark beneath it. Although he was happy to be safe, he just wished the same was true for his friend, whom he was unable to save. He began to search for nearby boats that would be able to take him back to shore, and eventually flagged down a passing fishing boat. He explained what had happened, and they were all rightly appalled by the incident. They agreed to collect Jay's body from the water and began to make their way over to him cautiously in case the shark was still nearby. They kept an eye out for the shark, but couldn't see it, and so quickly retrieved Jay's body from the water. It was then that they saw the extent of the ordeal that Jay had been through. The shark had ripped through his leg, tearing the femoral artery and causing unstoppable bleeding. It is thought that due to this blood loss, Jay then went into hypovolemic shock and his internal organs quickly stopped working. They were devastated at the sight of this poor teenager who had so much of his life ahead of him, killed in such a brutal way. After they returned Jay's body to shore and returned him to his family, a manhunt began to find the shark responsible. The beach was immediately closed out of respect for the deceased, but also for the safety of everyone visiting. The last thing they wanted was another death on their hands. The Department of Fisheries dropped drumlines for a week following the attack in the waters of Chains Beach and the surrounding areas in an attempt to catch the creature. There were patrols sent out in the area to find the animal and told that it would most likely still have the spear embedded in its skin, a clear marker that this would be the animal that killed Jay Muscat. They were hopeful that the body would simply wash up on the shore, and as time went on with no further shark sightings, they began to believe that the shark may have actually died from its injuries caused by Matt's spear gun. The hunt for the shark caused controversy across Australia, with some believing that the shark was simply acting as a natural predator and should not be harmed when humans are the ones invading their homes. Others believe that it was the same as putting down a dangerous dog. Once it attacks a human, it will most likely attack again. Ultimately, the animal was never seen again after extensive searching, so it was decided that it had been fatally wounded during the attack and had either sank to the bottom of the ocean or had become a meal for another animal. We will never know what happened to the shark responsible, but we will always remember what it did to Jay Muscat before he met his final affliction.